In a previous video, I did some work in the shower, or the head area, and replaced a couple of valves. That also involved spilling some of the blue juice that was in the sewer lines. As I was pushing it into the shower drain, I noticed some of it was spilling on the floor down by my knees. That led me to believe that there was an issue somewhere underneath of the shower. Underneath of the mat, I noticed some cracks that were in the fiberglass, which I took care of later, and also underneath there's the shower sump. The way that the sump works is the shower drain water, as well as water from the air conditioning condensation line, drains into this box. When the float switch rises, it pumps everything overboard through a through-hole fitting. As you can see, this sump box had seen better days. It was broken, and actually even where the lines connected to the pump itself was broken and had been previously glued, but it didn't work. The easiest solution was to just buy a new one, and this particular one was made by Atwood and comes with a pump and a float switch already built into it. I upgraded to a more powerful pump, and it actually pumps out about 750 liters per hour, which I think is around 500 gallons per hour. And it will empty that box in about 1 to 2 seconds. You can see some of the blue juice that's in there from the drain from the shower, but most of it ended up in the bilge anyway. That's not going to be a problem in the future. Also, I replaced the float switch that was in the mid-bilge area because that one was also not working. It's kind of funny looking at all of this because just about every aspect of this shower sump is broken. The fittings are broken off and re-glued and broken again, and it just was not really doing anything. I was thinking of taking out the shower sump as well as some of the old mildewed carpet, and the two things together would make a great Christmas gift. As I mentioned before, the blue float switch that was in there did not work. However, when I put power on the red and white pump, it actually did work. So I cleaned it up, and I was going to keep it on board as a spare just in case I had a dewatering issue. I think it's always a good idea to have a spare in an emergency. Now you can see when I received the new pump through Amazon, the box already had the pump and a built-in float switch and a little screen on it. I think everything was about $120. I can put a link to it in the description if you're interested. And you can see the old one had deformed from heat and use and everything else. I figured it was the original, so it was 22 years old. The new pump that's in here says it pumps 480 gallons per hour, which is quite a bit of water. It also is sealed up and has a gasket on it, so it's kind of like a pelican case, and then it has various size fittings on the side that you just drill or cut off to put on whatever hoses that you need to. And there's a small one there that's a vent as well. The new shower sump was a little bit larger by an inch or two in overall dimensions, so it didn't exactly fit into the same spot in the hull. So what I had to do was make a little bit of a riser to put it on. I needed to lift it up an inch or two, so I just cut several pieces of plywood and then glued them together and coated them with spar varnish because they're going to be sitting in water potentially. That way it just gave a little bit better mounting platform for the new sump. As I mentioned before, there were some cracks that were in the floor of the shower pan. So I took up the old shower mat and removed the old adhesive with some mineral spirits, and it came pretty clean. And I was able to see where the cracks were. They looked like they were stress cracks from just years of being there. So I mixed up some 2-part boat epoxy that I had and covered just the floor with it, and it seemed to seal everything up, and it gave it a nice glossy finish. I tested it, and everything turned out to be leak-proof, and I just need to clean up the sides and caulk everything to make it look nice. You can see the finished product here where I just poured the epoxy on the bottom, and I also embedded a little inspirational message that means something to my wife and I. So it added a little personalized touch. Behind the shower sump was another mid-bilge area that had a pump that was operational, but the float switch did not work. I did a little bit of research and I decided to replace it with a rule float switch. I think it cost about $40. And I just spliced it in line with the positive lead that went to the pump. You can see now that I've installed the new shower sump box. It's a little bit larger than the other one. Actually, a lot of this stuff behind it's going to get reworked because we're adding new air conditioning and we're going to put in some different hoses and pumps and fittings. So that will just get moved around in a little bit. But this is the block of wood that I made. A big old waterproof hunk of wood that I can set this shower sump on to keep it level. That way the float switch will turn on correctly. And if you look way in the back, you can see where I put in that new float switch, which now works in whenever there's water in that bilge area, it will eject it through a through-hole fitting. And now the moment of truth. I poured some water down the shower drain to see what would happen.